All right, joining us now, author of the upcoming book Firebrand, Dispatches from the Front Lines of the MAGA Revolution, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, and our friend Fox News contributor Lisa Booth. Matt, let's start with you. Your reactions to what you've heard tonight.
The Trump doctrine is thriving throughout the world and creating conditions for a cascading peace. President Trump's decision to withdraw troops from the Middle East is directly tied to these peace settlements. With less precious American blood and treasure to squander or weaponize against one another, it turns out the kingdoms of the Middle East can actually make peace rather than war. Prior presidents wandered around in these deserts for 40 years like Moses. President Trump's getting the job done in just 4 years. Imagine what he'll do with another 4.
Welcome back. A key question for the Trump campaign. What is the best way to convince undecided voters that Joe Biden would be a disaster for the country? The key, for me, is a line of attack that is reasonable and credible. An effective technique that I've used in the past is what you might call a jiu-jitsu strategy. Use your opponent's strengths against him. Biden says he'll bring people together. He just wants everyone to get along. How nice. But we don't need a president who wants to get along with the radical left. We don't need a president to unite with socialism. We need a president who'll stand strong against threats, not unify with threats. Biden also says he'd listen to experts. Americans have had enough of experts. They'd keep us shut down for years if they could. We need a leader for the people, not the experts. Matt, what do you think?
I think Joe Biden's got increasing problems with major demographic groups, and in a strategy like you've described could be very helpful. I'm talking specifically of Latino voters who are abandoning Joe Biden, and if Donald Trump gets more than 40% of the Latino vote, this election's going to be over, and pretty early in states like Florida and Arizona, where that's a substantial portion of the electorate. The critical question in this election is who can revive the American economy and who can put down the mob. Joe Biden is having a real crisis of competence. His effort looks less like a presidential campaign on many days and more like elder abuse, just because he's sort of wandering around, unable to get out of the basement under most conditions. He can't summon a crowd. He can't summon a nation. In a lot of his interviews, he can't even summon a complete sentence.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty frightening, Matt, because what it tells you is that he really is just a kind of stand-in for all their for the power that they want. He really is the puppet of the people around him.
That's not just what we're saying, it's what some of the radical leftists are saying. Remember, it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her fellow socialists who set up the hashtag Settle for Biden. And the reason the woke-topians will settle for Biden is because they will run roughshod over any potential Biden administration, and they'll bring the policies that are failing in San Francisco and in Portland and in Chicago, and they will proliferate those around the country, and that would be something very damaging to America. And so I think that the energy and enthusiasm you see in the president's campaign is sincere. It's because we actually see the results. We see that our lives are better when we have an energetic, enthusiastic president leading the country. The Biden movement is a bet on Biden's incompetence by the radical left so that they can come in like a Trojan horse and ruin America.
That's exactly right. Just a quick final thought, Matt, just on the rally. We got the event this evening. It's the first indoor rally. That's a big deal. We've seen outdoor up to now. What do you make of that? You think that's a good plan for the Trump campaign to be doing these rallies? And what about the fact that this one's indoors?
To win this election, we have to have a massive election day turnout. And to get that turnout, we need to have people excited and enthusiastic. And it's easy to sometimes feel beaten down by a mainstream media that is, 96% negative about our president and about our nation. And so I think that these rallies are essential. We have to, of course, make sure they're safe. But to the extent that they invite people to our movement, I think they are an essential element of our success.
Trump is fighting for working Americans in every state, while Biden is only fighting for his rich coastal donors. And when he's not fighting for them, he's fighting with the teleprompter.
What will your administration do to help them give them that chance? Thank you.
Let's move it up here. There used to be a basic bargain in this country.
Okay, so Matt and Lisa, Lisa, let me start with you. I mean, we've touched on it tonight. You know what's like for me worse about that? Not just that he cannot answer a planted question without the teleprompter. It's just the sense of exhaustion. He's like, oh, you know, he's like, oh, like we're just talking with the team in New York. Like he doesn't even want to be there half the time. It's really unbelievable.
And he also just doesn't seem like he's up for the job of commander-in-chief. I mean, think of how exhausting it is to be the president of the United States, and he can barely attend, you know, campaign events, let alone answer questions without teleprompter. So how in the world is he going to be commander-in-chief, president of the United States, when you don't sleep and you're making, you know, some of the most important decisions that are happening in the entire country and world?
Yeah, he just seems so weary, and you know, Matt, what do you think?
Well, this wasn't the only teleprompter gaffe recently. He was on the Late Late Show with James Corden. Biden held up a family photo, and you could see in the reflection that he was using a teleprompter. Now, James Corden is most known for carpool karaoke. So if you need a teleprompter for an interview with a Hollywood-based, you know, talk show host, I don't think you're really ready to go and negotiate with President Xi or fight for the jobs of hardworking Americans.
That's right. But by the way, that show is not good for Democrats. Wasn't that the show, Lisa, where Nancy Pelosi did the ice cream and all of that, Nancy Antoinette stuff?
I'm not sure, but I know that his spokesperson, TJ Ducklo, was actually ducking a question about his Joe Biden's teleprompter use, which is ironic because his last name is Ducklo, and he was ducking questions.
I know. The whole thing is ridiculous. Matt, what do you think? They're saying he won't do the debates. Biden's going to pull out. Do you agree? Or do you think he'll go through?
I think Joe Biden is trying to set low expectations. I think he will participate in the debates and that they'll be very important. President Trump needs to take these very seriously and prepare for them. Remember, most presidents in a debate against a challenger lose the first debate. You know, Romney beat Obama. You saw Kerry beat Bush in those first debates. And so President Trump's got to get ready, and I know
I'm sorry,
he'll do a
we're
great
out
job.
of time. Sorry. Thanks, everyone. See you next Sunday night when the next revolution will be televised.